Welcome back to another insert on how to use Tjhoko Paint. Today we are going to inspire you on how to create a beautiful kitchen. Old, worn laminate kitchen cupboard doors can be transformed in an instant into something that looks beautiful and that you created. So we are going to start today on the drawers in our kitchen. As you can see, the surface on our drawers are laminated surfaces. With Tjhoko, your first preparation that is required is to clean the surface properly with lacquer thinners. So what I'm going to do before I even clean is just to remove my handles to create a flat surface where I can work on. Take a screwdriver and simply screw. So I'm removing all the screws to be able to reach the back part of the drawer, to be able to remove the handle. So now I have a nice flat area where I can start having fun. What I'm going to do today is to show you various tips and techniques on stenciling. We are going to use our stencil of Paris paste on the drawer to create something beautiful and unique, as you can see on the drawers that has already been completed. First important step is to clean the surface well with some lacquer thinners. You want to create a grease-free, oil-free surface before you start painting. Next, I'll be waiting 20 minutes for the thinners to evaporate before I start my paint work, or my stenciling, as in this instance. My first step on my drawers will be to stencil with a stencil of Paris paste and one of our authentic Tjhoko Paint stencils. So I've selected a stencil with some writing on it. My paste is ready. And I'm also going to need a paint scraper. So we do advise to secure your stencil by using some masking tape, just to make sure that it doesn't move while you're busy working. I use some of the paste from the jar and I simply start by spreading it onto my stencil design. Most important is to ensure that you apply it very evenly. If you don't, once the stencil of Paris has dried and you want to even out something, you can use sandpaper, something like 100 grit, and just even it out to get a very smooth and fine finish. Immediately, you don't need to wait for the stencil of Paris paste to dry before you remove the stencil. So once you've applied it, remove the stencil, clean your applicator as well as your stencil with some lukewarm water. I'm now going to wait for the stencil of Paris paste to dry. It can take anything from 1 to 2 hours, depending on how thick you've applied it and what the temperature and weather is like. And now I'm going to start with my paint application. I'm going to use 2 colors. My first color is True Blue. Dip a dry paintbrush into my paint. And now I'm simply painting on top of my stencil of Paris paste. So once the paintwork is complete, we'll wait for the True Blue to dry, and then we'll start with our second color and our second coat in Olivia's Pale. And I'm painting with Olivia on top. The reason why I'm adding these 2 colors is to create a subtle two-toned effect, which we will do later by just sanding some of the Olivia's Pale away to see the True Blue coming through. I'm just ensuring that my application is nice and even and smooth. I'll wait 4 hours for the paint to dry before I start with my antique glaze application. So what we are going to do now is we are going to use our antique brown glaze to create an antique finish on the surface. On the instructions of the antique brown glaze, it does tell you to dilute the glaze with 30% water. So by adding water to it, it just makes the application easier. If you want to prolong the drying time on the glaze, you can even add some paint. We are going to add some matte black paint to our antique glaze. I use the stirring stick and I stir the glaze well. Next we'll be pouring out some of the antique brown glaze. 10 milliliters of water. You'll be adding 30% matte black paint to the content of the glaze and 10% water. Mix everything together. Areas where I prefer to use the antique brown glaze are areas with crevices and detail, like for instance the drawer we are working on. The thicker you apply it, the longer it will take to dry. Now I'm going to work with my damp cloth and gently, very lightly, I'm going to start to wipe away the excess antique brown glaze. Now also with my dirty cloth, do the edges. Now I continue with my second clean damp cloth. Still very light pressure. So once this is done, you can either just leave it like this, or you can wash on top of the surface. I'm going to show you how to do that. The color I'm going to choose will be Vineyard Stone. I add some paint onto my damp cloth. You can also use a paintbrush for this. I spread it nicely and evenly on top of my cloth. Can you see the transformation happening? And if you want to, you can apply clear glaze just to make the surface more water resistant. For a drawer, that won't be necessary. You will still be able to take a damp cloth and clean your surface if need be. The very last step will be to use 100 grit sandpaper and lightly sand our surface. And my drawer is complete. We have used the stencil of Paris on numerous spaces in this kitchen. On the wall, we've stenciled with a large wall Tjhoko stencil to create a script look, and on the oven cover, we've used the stencil of Paris to create a very unique finish.
Stencils are an easy way to add style to the surfaces of your kitchen. Keep watching the Home channel to see how Nadine applies a stencil design to wall tiles. Tjhoko Paint wishes all of our stockists and customers a prosperous 2019. Continue to follow us on www.tjokopaints.co.za and our Facebook page. For stockist opportunities, email Nadine at tjokopaint.co.za. Happy painting!